Yeah, Etok. You are the DG of Nigerian project, which it's trying to re-engineer the mentality of how the Nigerian state should work. Tell us, how do you feel about the way and manner the Nigerian state or the Nigerian state as it is structured, to the extent that we have a situation that most of these states are crawling to almost a collapse because of lack or paucity of funds?
Yeah, thanks so much, Shemun, for having me, and good evening, Nigerians. I'm really concerned about our leadership recruitment process and what we call politics. Government is such an important organ that we don't seem to give it the priority that it expects or it deserves. If you look at it and think of any of the blue chips, let's take maybe any of the banks or even channels, assuming that your boss wants to retire, there's going to be a very, very rigorous, process of recruiting who should take over from him to ensure that the good work that channels is doing is maintained. And yet, look at what is happening in Anambra State today. In a few days, they are going to go to the polls. What is the primary question that Anambrarians are asking? Have they taken time to look at the candidates, who they are? In Nigeria First, like you have said, we were so concerned that we had to evolve what we call the 3CPX, CCCPX, which is our leadership recruitment criteria. First C is character. Is this a man of conscience? Does he believe in values and ethics? Because the man who carries yam and gives to a goat to eat, the problem is not with the goat. The problem is with the man who gave a goat yam to keep. Because the answer is obvious to a sane mind.
Because
so the question is,
Mr. Etok,
look at the first C.
Yes. If I may quickly butt in to put this to you, the question, the issue is that some of these states cannot pay salaries. That's sad enough. Now, the federal government has said, oh, we will give you part of the payment of the over-deduction in the power refund that is naturally your own monies, and they gave them the first, the second. Now they're asking for more, and at some point, some states have actually gotten bailouts. That means some states have been given monies 3 times by the federal government to rescue their state. And we understand that even some of these states are not utilizing this money for the purpose in which these monies were disbursed. How sad is it? And what do you think the federal government could do in making sure that these monies are utilized for the purpose of which they were disbursed in the first place?
There's very little you can do when your yam is with a goat. There's very little you can do. You can pray about it. It's very important that aside this analysis, we go back to our leadership recruitment procedures and principles. Now, when a governor comes to sit, as we are going to have in Anambra State very soon, what is he expecting, governance or politics? These are the questions we must answer. Now, a man gets into Anambra State to be a governor. The first thing I expect is that before getting to that place, he would have done analysis of the people that are his workforce, what is their internally generated revenues, what comes in, and he does an analysis of what comes in, what goes out, and says, look, wisdom demands that more should come in than goes out for me to be able to meet all my expenditure. Now, that is called governance. They've gotten the first bailout, like my brother said. Assuming this bailout was not there, how many people even understand the background of this bailout, not even the bailout, the PARI funds? A lot of people don't even know. A lot of the governors, even the past ones, don't even know the dynamics, what happened. And I happen to be very close to some of the people that were major players in getting this money out. And it will shock you to know that some of those major players who were able to get it out as consultants have not even been paid. So the issue is, I don't have any problem with collecting money, but the question is, what are you to use the money for? Paying salaries?
That's a good point for us to take a breather. We take a break, and when we come back, if you're working for any state government and you are being owed salaries, take your pen, take your telephone. We get deeper into this conversation. You might find a solution right after this program. But wait till when we come back, everyone. Mr. Etok, let's look at the issues of accountability. I've given you 1, 2, 3 for reliefs, financial reliefs to sort out your problems, but the problems are still there. Where does the state, or where do they go from here, the states and the state governments, that is? How did they go forward? It's interesting that some states are now being termed workers' state, state worker state, civil servant state. That's how some states are being termed. Where do we go from here?
I think I may not have too much time, so let me wrap up these with 1, 2, 3 scenarios. Number one is that Nigerian workers are not exactly stupid. They are not stupid. They play the ostrich. Now, you want them to tie the belts, but they know. They run all the affairs of State House. There's no money spent by a governor that does not go through the civil service. They understand how you are spending money, and yet you don't have money to pay them. As a result, the workers are not being as productive as they would ordinarily be because there's no motivation. They make the money for you, and you spend the money. The day we evolve our leadership recruitment to have honest and sincere people in government, there's going to be a certain synergy between the executive and the labor force, such that when there is plenty, everybody feels it. When there's a lack, everybody knows that they should tighten their belts. I see Nigerian workers being willing to cut their wages if there's honesty, and I see a situation where they have an honest man. When more money comes, they all also enjoy pro rata. We need to revisit our leadership recruitment process in this country. There is no second alternative to it.
But in the meantime, just a moment. In the meantime, this looks like a good gospel, but one that looks like not in the immediate. I'm talking about the immediate right now, between the next 6 months. If they collect these funds, perhaps some of these states will pay 3 months' salary. But where did they go from here? Maybe another 6 months or so.
They must hold the government to account. There must be accountability. Whatever money the president is going to release should be made public, and the workers should hold their government to account on how they are disbursing the funds. That's for the immediate. In the future, we must revisit our leadership recruitment processes.
All right.